Chinese balloon called dry run for EMP attack. Now, as of the time of me actually reporting this, Biden still hasn't commented on this, and y'all know why. He's basically a stooge. He's a puppet for the Chinese government. So he hadn't even commented to the American people about what he's going to do about the Chinese government encroaching on American sovereign territory. But before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here. There's also a link to my Instagram and my merch store where I have I Will Not Comply t-shirts as well. So check that out. All right, let's talk about this news. A commentary at the Washington Examiner is warning that a Chinese spy balloon is being watched as it crossed the United States could be a, quote, dry run for an EMP attack. An electromagnetic pulse attack would be triggered by a nuclear explosion at altitude. It would disrupt electronics in a massive region, and earlier warnings have said that it could take down America's grid, destroy basic functions like banking and deliveries, and ultimately kill millions. Because imagine America without electricity. What will we do? We would be a third world country. No one knows. Only a small number of people actually know how to survive off the grid. People don't really realize what that would look like. We got a snippet of it during the pandemic when we ran out of toilet paper and some food in some places. Imagine that, but like times 100 with no electricity. The latest warning is contained in Paul Bedard's Washington Secrets column. Quote, high altitude balloons, such as the one China has floated over the mountain state military bases this week, are considered a key delivery platform for secret nuclear strikes on America's electric grid, according to intelligence officials, he reported. Quote, spy balloons used by Japan to drop bombs during World War II are now far more sophisticated, can fly at up to 200,000 feet, evade detection, and can carry a small nuclear bomb that, if exploded in the atmosphere, would shut down the grid and wipe out electronics in a many statewide areas. I mean, it would be bad. WND has reported that the threat from EMP for years, as the nation has no effective barrier to such attacks, and even small rogue nations or terror groups that could capture a nuke could launch such an attack. I mean, it's scary. A congressional EMP commission and the military have delivered such warnings over the years too. Bedard said in the 2015 report for the American Leadership and Policy Foundation included advice from Air Force Major David Stuckenberg, a leading EMP expert, about the situation and the threat to the national security from EMPs. Quote, using a balloon as a WME platform could provide adversaries with a palette of altitude and payload options with which maximize offensive effects against the U.S., he said at the time. Excuse me. A high-quality altitude balloon could be designed, created, and launched in a matter of months. There's nothing to prevent several hundred pounds of weapon material from being delivered to altitude. And back in the day, I remember they had an expert on Alex Jones' show years ago talk about EMP attack and what it would do to this country. I mean, it's some scary, scary stuff. But today, in light of the Chinese balloon's presence, Bedard reported, he said, quote, China's recent balloon flyover of the United States is clearly a provocative and aggressive act. It was most likely a type of drive run meant to send a strategic message to the USA. We must not take this for granted. And he noted during World War II, Japan had an effort that targeted North America with balloon bombs. The report said, quote, Stuckenberg cited the research of the late Peter Pry, who headed a congressional commission on EMP, and reported on the potential of a balloon launch attack. Pry found, quote, imagine the consequences of a balloon EMP attack that damages and destroys electronic systems at the speed of light with an EMP field with the radius of hundreds of kilometers. The eastern grid generates 75% of U.S. electricity and supports most of the population. Virtually any nuke detonated anywhere over the eastern grid would collapse the entire eastern grid, not just the area within the EMP field, because of the cascading failures that will ripple outward. Again, scary, scary stuff. And China has claimed its balloon is a weather balloon and is not a threat, and the Pentagon has so far rebuffed demands to shoot it down. It's just ridiculous. I mean, weather balloon, come on now. How did weather the balloon end up all the way here? And only last year there were new evidence the rogue Islamic regime in Iran was prepared for such an attack by hardening its, quotes, critical infrastructure in preparation for military response from the United States. In an electromagnetic pulse or EMP attack, a smaller nuclear weapon delivered on a satellite is exploded at high altitude, resulting in a burst of electromagnetic energy that could cause a nationwide blackout of the electric power grid. The shutdown of critical infrastructure relying on the grid, which could last as long as a year, would affect communications, transportation, food, water supply, and sanitation. I mean, it would utterly destroy this country. We wouldn't be able to build it back. I think America would be gone as we know it if something like this happened. And Biden is, again, not mentioning it, not talking about it at all. I think I did read him about to meet the, what they call them, the Big Eight or whatever, the senators or whatever. Is it called the Big Eight? That group of people that meet. He's supposed to be discussing it with them. But again, nothing to the American people about this. Because China owns Beijing Biden. And while nuclear experts believe Iran does not have the capacity to strike the U.S. with the traditional nuclear tipped missile, its intent to carry out an EMP attack may be reflected in their efforts to protect at least some of the critical infrastructure, according to a report by Pry, the executive director of EMP Task Force of National and Homeland Security. He in Pry goes on to talk a little bit about more about Iran and stuff like that. But suffice to say that China is definitely planning something. They're definitely telling us something, giving us a warning with the flyover. And our administration, our government, our president is not speaking to this or saying anything about it because he can't. China owns him, bought and paid for. But let me know what you think about this madness that's going on. Leave your comments down below. Like, share, subscribe, and check out democrepublics.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.